My name is Julia. I'm 23 now, but there's someone I still think about from time to time. Back in high school, in our final year, I sat next to a boy who would change the way I saw people forever. This story is about him. His name was Aiden. He was the worst student in our class. That wasn't me being mean, it was just the truth. He skipped homework, failed tests, and often fell asleep in class. He was also the one who got into fights. Fist fights, arguments, shouting matches. Teachers gave up on him. Most students avoided him, but not me. Not by choice, anyway. It all started one Tuesday morning, 2 months before our midterm exams. Ms. Carter, our homeroom teacher, announced a new seating plan. I'd always sat by the window, 3 rows from the front. It was my favourite spot. Quiet, bright, safe. Then she said, "Julia, you'll now sit next to Aiden." The room fell silent. Heads turned. Aiden looked up from where he had his feet propped on the chair ahead of him and smirked. I wanted to object, but Miss Carter gave me a look. That was the end of it. The first week was unbearable. Aiden barely spoke. When he did, it was with sarcasm or mockery. He drummed on the desk during class. He chewed gum and offered me some with a crooked smile, which I refused. I kept my books on the edge of the desk, trying to create space. But over time, things changed. It started with a math class. We were solving quadratic equations. He groaned beside me and whispered, "You actually get this stuff?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Can you show me?" I looked at him, confused. No smirk, no sarcasm, just a tired face, waiting. So I showed him. Just once. But the next day he asked again, then again. By the end of the week he started showing up on time. He brought a notebook. He stopped chewing gum during lessons, and once, during a pop quiz, he whispered, "Thanks," after getting a passing grade for the first time in months. We started talking more, not just about math or school, about music, about food, about the ridiculous cafeteria meatloaf. He told me he liked basketball, that his older brother used to play for the school team. I told him I liked writing, that I kept journals. He never laughed at that. In fact, he once asked me to read something aloud. I did, and he listened, quietly, staring at the words on my notebook as if they mattered. One Friday, he asked if I wanted to go see a movie. I blinked. He backtracked immediately. Not like a date or anything, just, a movie. I said yes. We watched an action film. He bought the popcorn. He didn't try to hold my hand or act cool. He just laughed at the right parts and looked at me when I laughed too hard. Afterward, we walked home together. I asked about his family. He didn't say much, but he told me his mom worked nights, and he mostly made dinner for his little sister. It was a quiet kind of honesty that made me feel something I hadn't expected. 2 months passed. Midterms came and went. When the results were posted, Aiden had jumped from the bottom 5 to the top 15. It was unbelievable. Ms. Carter clapped when she handed back his math paper. Students started treating him differently. Some of the boys invited him to play basketball during lunch. A few weeks later, he was officially added to the school team. By the end of the term, he was the starting point guard. Everyone started saying we were a couple. Even the teachers smiled knowingly when we entered the classroom. Friends teased me. I smiled, but inside I didn't know what we were, because Aiden, despite everything, kept a certain distance. He never texted first. He never walked too close. When people asked if we were dating, he would shrug. Once, I asked him directly, "What are we, Aiden?" He looked away, silent. Then he said, "You're too good, Julia." I laughed nervously. "What does that even mean?" He didn't answer. That night, I cried for reasons I couldn't explain, but I kept sitting next to him. I kept helping him with homework. We kept walking home together sometimes. One evening, he surprised me by handing me a folded piece of paper. Inside was a sketch of me reading. He'd drawn it. I'm not good at words, he said, but I notice things. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to tell him that I didn't care if he had a past or if he thought he wasn't good enough. But I didn't. I just kept that sketch in my notebook. By the time the school year ended, Aiden had become someone else in everyone's eyes. A success story. A reformed bad boy. The basketball star with good grades and a bright future. But to me, he was still that boy who used to fall asleep in class, who quietly asked me about quadratic equations, who once listened as I read out loud. And though I felt something for him, something real and deep, I knew it would never be what I hoped, because Aiden never let anyone all the way in, and maybe he never would. After high school ended, everything blurred. The day Aiden told me he got a scholarship to study abroad, I smiled. I congratulated him. I even hugged him like a good friend should. But when I got home, I broke down completely. That night, I packed a bag and booked a one-way ticket to Charleston. I didn't tell many people, I just said I needed a break, a change. Charleston was calm, coastal, quiet. I found a room above a bookstore and took a job at a coffee shop on the same block. I told myself it would only be for 6 months, just 6 months to forget. But forgetting someone like Aiden, that was like asking the ocean to forget the moon. The first weeks in Charleston were a haze of long walks and sleepless nights. I kept thinking about that sketch he gave me, the way he looked at me when I read to him, the way he said, "You're too good, Julia." I hated him for saying that. I cried on the rooftop one night when the bookstore owner gave me the key to the balcony. I stared at the stars and asked the wind if Aiden ever thought about me. I asked the moon if he missed anything at all. But the moon doesn't answer broken girls. Months passed. I stopped checking his social media. I deleted his number. I focused on work. I made new friends. I read poetry out loud at the bookstore's open mic night. I laughed again. Then one day, a mutual friend from high school sent me a photo. Aiden with a girl in Germany. Blonde. Beautiful, happy. They looked so in love. I closed my phone and sat still for a long time. Then I got up, put on an apron, and went back to work. 5 years passed. I was back in my hometown, working as an event planner. It was the weekend before my best friend Daniel's wedding. I was coordinating final touches at the rehearsal dinner when I saw her, Melissa, the bride. And beside her, arm slung casually around her shoulder, was Aiden. He looked older, broader, but still him. He saw me. And for a split second, the entire room vanished. It was just us. 5 years vanished between heartbeats. Melissa introduced us, clearly unaware. Aiden's one of my closest friends from Berlin. He just flew in yesterday. Julia, he's the one I told you about who got me through the worst year of my life. We shook hands. His grip was firm, warm. Julia, he said softly, it's been a while. I nodded. Yeah, it has. The party buzzed around us. Drinks flowed. Laughter echoed. But I couldn't focus on anything but the storm gathering in my chest. Later that night, the guests were drunk and scattered. Someone started karaoke indoors. Daniel and Melissa disappeared. I stepped outside to catch my breath. Aiden was already out there, leaning against the fence, hands in his pockets, staring up at the night sky. "You always did love the stars," he said. I sat down on the porch steps, a safe distance away. "I always wondered if you noticed." He turned to me. I noticed everything. We sat in silence for a long while. Then he said, "I missed you, you know. Every single day." I laughed bitterly. "You had a girlfriend." "Had," he emphasized. "We broke up a year ago. She wanted a life I couldn't give her." I turned to him. "And what life can you give now?" He looked sad, tired. "I don't know. I just know I never stopped thinking about you." My eyes welled up. "Why didn't you write?" call, anything. Because I thought you were better off without me. Don't decide that for me. You don't get to choose what I needed. Silence again. Heavy. Real. I'm sorry, Julia, he whispered. I am, too. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled something out. Folded paper. A new sketch. It was me, older but the same eyes, reading a book under moonlight. I drew it last month, he said. Didn't even know I'd see you again. I clutched it to my chest, and then, just like 5 years ago, I said nothing, just kept it. We talked until sunrise about life, about dreams, about the spaces we tried to fill with other people. But we never kissed, never touched. Some things, even after all those years, remained unfinished. Guess what happened next? If someone had asked me that the morning after Daniel and Melissa's wedding party, I wouldn't have known how to answer. But sitting there on the porch with Aiden, under the early morning light, something in me shifted. The following week, I found out through Melissa, who'd pieced things together, that Aiden wasn't just visiting. He had returned to lead a legal project with an international firm. He'd gone to law school, graduated top of his class in Germany, and now he was back in the country for a case involving environmental litigation against a major developer. I was stunned. For days I couldn't stop thinking about it. Aiden, the boy who used to fall asleep in math class, was now standing in courtrooms, arguing cases in sharp suits, defending causes bigger than himself, and I was proud, deeply, achingly proud. We started talking again. It began with texts, then coffee, then long dinners that felt like time machines. He told me about Germany, about the struggles of studying in a language that wasn't his own, about the girl he loved and lost, about the books he read to keep himself grounded. I told him about Charleston, about poetry nights and morning coffee shifts, about the stories I never finished writing. One night, after another dinner that lasted until the streetlights came on, he said, "I still love you, Julia. I think I always did. I just didn't believe I deserved you back then." I didn't answer with words. I just leaned forward and kissed him. Loving Aiden this time was different. We were older, quieter, no longer trying to prove anything to the world, just trying to hold space for each other. But reality is not a romance novel. 2 months after we started seeing each other again, Aiden had to return to Germany for work. The case here was temporary. His life, his team, his future, still mostly abroad. So we talked for hours. We cried. We asked the hard questions, and in the end, we made a decision. We would try, not just try, we would trust. Long-distance love is a choice you make every day. It's video calls after long meetings. It's sending poems through email. It's watching the same movie apart and texting reactions in real time. It's planning trips 6 months in advance and crossing off days on the calendar. It's learning to be alone, together. We are still learning. Some days are hard, some nights lonelier than others. But every time I doubt, I think about the boy who once said, "You're too good, Julia," and how that same boy, now a man, stands by me across time zones and oceans with the same quiet faith I once had in him. Love, we've learned, is not about being close all the time. It's about growing in the same direction, even from different places. And maybe, just maybe, this time we'll get it right.